Welcome from very early in the morning in Washington, D.C. I'm Nokia's head of ecosystem and trend scouting, which means I look at the new technologies that are coming that are outside the world of telecommunications that will need some kind of connectivity in the future so that we know what kind of networks we need to be building and what kind of new services we as an industry will be providing. And so today I'd like to very quickly give you an overview of what's happening in the world of augmented reality. And part of the reason that augmented reality is important to us as an industry is that when we think about what 5G can do and what 5G will be transformational in, I like to think of this as splitting the chip. So right now, our end devices are, we've got supercomputers in our pockets and in our gaming consoles, and they've got these big heavy chips in them, which is great, except they're expensive. They generate a lot of heat, and they have a short battery life. What 5G enables is for end devices to have a much lighter onboard processor and yet connect over 5G to a much larger stack of servers in the network at the edge so that combined you actually have a much more significant computing power than even in these supercomputers in our pockets today. And what this will actually enable robots and drones and wireless virtual reality and cloud gaming, but most importantly, augmented reality. So this is the technology, and this is why 5G is important for all of this, for us to be able to have devices on our heads that are much like regular eyeglasses, and that will then perform all kinds of features and functions that our smartphones perform today. So let me show you the work that is going on in this area. Now, of course, when we think about augmented reality today, usually in the workplace, that kind of expert looking over your shoulder kind of thing is going on, and that's been out there for a couple of years already, and it's been very successful in the places that use it. Porsche, for example, they developed their system in 2018, and one of the interesting things about COVID is that it has led to an increase in use in these kinds of systems in the workplace, because even though they lead to things like, in this case, a 40% improvement in repair speed, in practice, people weren't always putting them on because you have to admit that you don't know everything when you put this on and you call an expert. But with COVID and people being separated, Porsche, for example, has found that the use of these augmented reality expert looking over your shoulder glasses has increased by 300%. So that's great for getting people used to the concept of virtual reality in the workplace in these situations. But in terms of telco, this is actually not so important for us and not so interesting because this just runs over Wi-Fi and there's not really much that we do about this. Much more interesting are things that are happening on the consumer side, with KDDI in Japan working with Nreal glasses connected by a cable for right now to a 5G phone. What they've done is they've put 5G in the Shibuya ward of Tokyo. And if you go to Shibuya and you put on these glasses, then you will see, for example, virtual advertising that is not visible without the glasses. But that's not so compelling for end users. So another thing that they've done is they've worked with the Ghost in the Machine, which is a manga property, very well known in Japan, so that when you put on these glasses and you go to Shibuya, it actually repaints what you see. And so, in the storyline that then occurs with characters coming up to you and talking to you, it actually repaints the way that Shibuya looks, the cityscape. So everything is flickering and twitching as though the city has been hacked. That's the storyline. And then you can take part and interact with the characters with these augmented reality glasses, actually, when you're standing in Shibuya. So you begin to see the power now of augmented reality in terms of being able to completely give you a different reality when you're actually standing in a space. Now, but if we think about augmented reality today, and leaving aside the work-related augmented reality that I mentioned at the beginning, the most dominant augmented reality that we have today is running over 4G, and it's running on a smartphone based on two-dimensional maps, and that's really the Pokemon Go kind of model. So people looking through the cameras in their phones and having something that either integrates with the background or doesn't, that you can look at and maybe walk around and move around. The shift that's coming, and this is actually the very important shift, is that 5G connection as I mentioned, and then with the minimized chip in the end device, which moves the viewing device from being a smartphone to being something sitting on your face, and moving to three-dimensional mapping. So basically, a digital twin of the physical world that you're surrounded in, and then content that is integrated with the world as you move through it and becomes available to you and visible to you depending on your interests and depending on where you are. In the little picture I've got here, this is somebody moving through a grocery store and getting offers as they move through the aisle based on what their interests are. But I've also got a question mark here because what the content may be for this is actually a massively open question, and we're only going to really know what augmented reality will do for us when we have all of these tools. But you need all of these things in place before this next wave of augmented reality truly comes into force. So 5G, the lighter end devices, 3D maps of the world, both interior and exterior, and then the content development. And so I've already, we all know about 5G and the path that that's on in our various countries. Let's take a quick look at the viewing devices, how they're being developed. Oh, sorry, actually, because when you put all of these things together, you get what I call the spatial internet, which also goes by other terms, the megaverse, the metaverse, the spatial web. It's all the same thing, and it's all information and entertainment actually physically located around us in the spaces that we move through that become available to us as and when we call for it, when we're in the locations that it's relevant for. Now, on the headset side, Apple is one of the most important players here, and it's a rumor. They haven't ever officially announced this, but it's a rumor that they are developing an AR headset, and the launch date is supposed to be in about 2022, 2023, so about 2 years from now. And I mentioned this is a rumor. Now, I don't usually talk about rumors because that's not very fruitful. However, I do talk about Apple because number one, they're a very important hardware player, but number two, we can see the patents that they're filing. And one of the patents that they have filed for augmented reality glasses is the ability to do vision correction in augmented reality glasses. And what this does is this actually introduces the concept of sensory enhancement as probably the first best use case for augmented reality headsets. And head mounted devices is actually the term for that, HMD. And so we've got Apple with doing vision correction. And now suddenly, if this thing is not just something I can play Pokemon Go with, but if this thing sitting on my face actually is my vision correction, that means I'm going to wear it all the time. And if it's good, then I will start becoming aware of the other content types that will be possible through this device. But it's not just vision correction. Facebook has also been working on audio enhancement that again works with a head-mounted device. You can see these laboratory versions here. That's certainly not what they're going to market with, um, where they match the gaze, the direction that your eyes are looking, and then prioritize the sound that is coming from the thing that you are looking at over the other sounds that might be in your environment. And so in this example here, say in a crowded restaurant, if you look at the person across the table from you, then it prioritizes their sound, and then mutes everything else or lowers it. But then if you shift your eyes to the TV in the corner, now it's the TV's noise that is actually prioritized and the person that's at the table. You don't hear them so well. So audio enhancement plus vision correction. And then if we think of the excellent work that's being done now in speech to text interfaces, you can actually potentially add real life subtitles as a third element of sensory enhancement for an initial wave of augmented reality headsets for the mass market that people would actually be interested in wearing, because it's not just a gaming thing, it's something that would genuinely solve problems that people have every day. And in many countries of the world, well, kind of the world average, if for people above the age of 40, 70% of us already wear glasses. So, we're ready for this product. But then another element of this, and this again is back to the Apple patents, is what would such an interface look like? Well, certainly there would be the voice commands, Alexa style, glasses, show me this kind of thing. But in addition, the forward-facing cameras that are on many of these head-mounted devices that we're seeing being developed would allow the sensing of your hands, and therefore the ability for you to interact with menus or objects that the glasses create in your visual field in front of you. And so if we think about now these glasses being voice activated and having the ability for us to swipe or touch or otherwise interact with visual interfaces placed in front of us by the glasses, we now have a far more intuitive way of interacting with computers than the keyboard and the flat screen that dominates our computer interaction today. And so fundamentally, what this means, what augmented reality glasses mean, is a shift in the way that humans and computers interact with each other, and all powered, necessarily powered by 5G, because the processing is not happening on the glasses. It's happening, remember that glass to be like wearable, it's got a minimum processing chip on it connected over 5G to the processing happening in the network. And 5G is an absolutely necessary link for this. And so the kinds of things that we can imagine, the kinds of structures we can imagine. This is a view created by Magic Leap of New York City, kind of a functional view of New York City. So you're standing on the street corner and you can get information about the traffic lights, about the weather, about the restaurant reviews. But back in 2019, the noted technology futurist Kevin Kelly had an article in Wired magazine about augmented reality. And he wrote, look, this is really the third platform of the internet. The first great platform being the internet itself, the second being social media, and this will be the third platform. And his quote is, whoever dominates this third platform will become among the wealthiest and most powerful people and companies in history. Augmented reality is the technology underpinning the mirror world, his term for it. It is the awkward newborn that will grow into a giant. And so, yes, even though augmented reality today is clunky, and nobody expects anybody to walk around holding up their phone looking at the world the whole time, the shift to head mounted displays with sensory enhancement is the thing that is actually going to enable the mirror world. And then the world is our oyster. All kinds of things are possible, including, and this is from Qualcomm's marketing materials, and Qualcomm is working very heavily on this split chip concept, the ability to repaint the world around you as you move through it, say, as a game that you like, or say this is your living room and it's a nice living room, but you've seen it a lot lately. So, okay, let's repaint all of the objects in it so that it looks, let's go tiki, let's go to the South Pacific today. So all of the objects are still there. They just have a different visual factor for you. And so you can still interact with them. So like you're not going to trip over your table because you can still see it. It just looks different. So there's going to be all kinds of questions, ethical among them, about what it means for us to have a completely repainted reality. But there's also many educational and informational opportunities in this, and not to mention the entertainment value. Now, Facebook is another one of the companies that is working very hard on this concept, and I should mention so I mentioned Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, and Niantic from Pokemon Go. All of them are working on making what I've just described to you a reality, and they're all looking at about a 2-year time frame. So 2022 is when we're really going to start seeing this hitting the markets, and so this diagram from Facebook's Connect developer presentation this September, this is how they put it. So far, our interaction with computer has been based on these 2D screens, but this is actually the shift that's happening right now to head-mounted displays that will actually be the second great wave of human-computer interaction. Because right now with our smartphones, we're all head down in our smartphones, and there's all kinds of things that are bad about that. But when you shift the computing to your head, and now you are looking through the computing at the world, this is how we re-engage with the world. And the computing doesn't become a wall that cuts us off from the world. It actually becomes the thing through which we see the world, which enhances the view as we interact directly with the world. And that's a very significant, very important change. And I can't emphasize enough, by 2030, the way that humans and computers interact with each other will be completely different, led by head-mounted devices with augmented reality. And that is why augmented reality really matters. Thank you very much.